Hey, Kittch. Oh man, I have a treat for you. But before we get into it, my name is Kristen Solorzano. I am the recipe developer and content creator behind What's the Freaking Recipe, where I make semi homemade dishes for busy people like yourselves. Okay, my treat is we're making tamales, but I like to spread this out over a few days. My family does just because it makes it a little bit more, it's a process. So it makes the process a little bit more enjoyable, but I also enjoy the end results a little bit more when we spread it out over a couple of days. So for today, we are focusing on the filling of our tamales, which is going to be a carne con chile filling. And it's so succulent and delicious and so amazing in tamales. So we have quite a bit to do. So let's get into it. Okay. So like I said, it's a process, right? So I went ahead and I boiled about 3 pounds of a chuck roast that I've chopped up into like 2-inch pieces, trim the fat a little bit, and I put it in some aromatics like 2 bay leaves, peppercorns, garlic cloves, and half an onion. And I just let it simmer for an hour and a half. Yes, it takes that long till it's nice and tender. So we're going to jump into the next step. If you are curious, you can toggle on over to the recipe on the right-hand side. I went through it this morning. I went ahead and typed it all up, spent like an hour doing it. So hopefully it's all cohesive and it makes sense and it's easy to follow and you can make it with your family too. All right. So before I start draining our broth from our meat, I'm going to get going on the base of our salsa for the chili con carne. I'm sorry, the carne con chile. Keep doing that backwards. So I have 2 Roma tomatoes that I've washed and dried. And then I have some chili colorados. So these can be under different names at the store. Here, I'll show you the package. Woo! Woo, woo. I got these from our local Mexican market here in the Detroit area from Honeybee Market in downtown Detroit. I really urge you to seek out a Mexican market in your area. That way you're supporting local and everything is very affordable and you get the authentic peppers and flavors that you're after. So these can also be under a New Mexico chili pods. I'm just dropping seeds everywhere. Or California chilies as well. Okay, let me just toss these. I'm making a mess already, and we haven't even done anything. Okay, so these come whole like this. Sometimes they'll have stems, which you'll need to take off. And I do like taking out the seeds. There we go. It's okay if there's some in there. It's not a big deal. All right, let me just toss these little seeds here out of my. She says that they get stuck. All right, here we go. It's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so I'm going to add my Roma tomatoes. I have about 7 chili colorados, New Mexico chilies here, and then 2 cloves of garlic, which I'm going to add to a medium saucepan and just add it whole, okay? Don't have to do any chopping or anything like that. I'm going to fill up my saucepan so that the water just covers the tomatoes. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to stick it on the burner. You know what? I'm going to use this one because it's already preheated from my meat, which we'll get into in a second. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So turn it on to high. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the peppers nice and plump and rehydrated because they're dried right now. And same thing with the tomatoes. We want them to be plump and juicy and that peel to almost like just start peeling away from the flesh of the tomato. Okay. So that'll take like 8 to 10 minutes. So while that's going, we're gonna drain our meat from the simmering process earlier today. Let me move y'all under here. See that? I know it's gonna just totally waft up, but here we go. Woo! Look at that. So nice and tender. All right, so I'm grabbing a slotted spoon, and we're gonna do is we're going to take the meat out of its cooking broth right now, its cooking liquid. And we're doing it this way because we want this broth, okay? We spent all that time simmering this delicious meat, and we want this broth for a few things. So we're gonna leverage this broth in the salsa for the carne con chile. And we're also going to save this broth for the masa dough for our tamales. No waste here, okay? You worked so hard to get this flavorful broth. We're going to use every ounce of it, okay? So right now, I'm just getting the meat. You might get some garlic cloves in there. That's okay. We can pick them out later when we shred it or leave it in, whatever. I mean, it's going to be delicious, right? Skimming our meat here is the best we can. And then we can pick out any other little bits when we put the broth over a colander. Okay, I think that's good for now. And I'm going to bring over, I think we're done with this. Famous last words, right? I think we're done with this. So she goes to grab it 10 minutes later. Okay, so I have a colander fitted over a bowl because like I said, we want to save that broth, okay? Liquid gold. So I'm going to, you know what? I'm gonna be a little safe. I'm gonna start ladling it over just because I don't want any splashback. I know this takes probably a little bit longer, but like I said, this broth is liquid gold. Once it becomes a little bit lower of a liquid level, then I'll probably pour it on in there. But just to kick it off, see, a little bit easier. That way you don't have as much splatter because you do have those big pieces of onion and bay leaf in there. Yeah, so I got a few little chunks of meat here. Ew, I had a tongue somewhere. There we go. See, that gives us quite a bit of broth. We just want to strain out any of that extra onion, whole peppercorns, which we don't really want in our final product. All right. Look at that. Beautiful, right? Okay. So we need about 2 cups of this broth for our chili con carne, or carne con chile. There we go. So I'm measuring out 2 cups of broth. If you're comfortable, come on up to the chef's table. We'll hang out. Talk tamales. They're your family traditions. Tamales happens to be ours. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. This is quite a bit of broth. Okay, so I'm going to let this cool uncovered. Just got to check on my tomatoes because it's taking a minute. Chill uncovered before you stick it back in the fridge for the next day when you make the masa dough. Okay, here we go. Oh, that is hot. Hot, hot, hot. And I know this meat is gonna be hot too. Let me just clean up my area here a little bit and we'll get to shredding. Shredding the meat while we wait on our tomatoes and peppers to plump up. Looking good though. I'll be honest, I just found a sticker on there. I washed it and everything and I somehow got on there. So remove your stickers. That's a little embarrassing, but it happened. I don't want to just pretend like nothing happens. Keep it real. We make mistakes too. Okay, so you can use a fork to shred this up. See, look how tender this got just from boiling in some aromatics. Look at that, just like falls apart in my fingers. You know I gotta try it. And we're not even done. That's gonna get even more tender, if you can believe it, once it simmers in the salsa that we're making. Excuse me, Waterloo break. But also that's why I like splitting it up into 2 days, so then you can kind of take your time with it. It's not, oh, we gotta make the masa dough. Oh, we gotta steam it for an hour. You can enjoy the process. And it's even, my hands are clean. It's even more of an enjoyable process when you do it with your family. So you'll see little fatty chunks like this, just discard it, okay? We don't want that in our tamales. It gives our broth lots of flavor, which we like, but just discard it for the tamales. You don't want a big bite of fat. Cool? Cool. All right, let me check on our tomatoes here. Oh yeah. I'm just gonna turn that down momentarily because that's almost ready already. All right, I get to going on shredding here. Shouldn't take too long because it's so tender. Tamales is definitely something that my family looks forward to making around the holidays. I know it's the same for Mexican American families across the United States and those, in Mexico. My husband's Mexican. His dad migrated here to the US when he was 14 by himself, which is wild if you look back on what the hell you were doing when you were 14. Wasn't that? So he grew up eating tamales, and his dad would always make it special for the restaurant and sell them at the restaurant, but then also for their family. And it was really special to him. So he's from Florida, and we met out in Los Angeles when we lived there in our early 20s, and then we moved back here to Michigan. So we couldn't always make it to Florida for the holidays or for Christmas. So we found ourselves craving that tradition, but also, you crave tamales around the holidays. Once you have it, it's like, it's a must. So we found ourselves trying different recipes and different methods because a lot of the recipes that my father-in-law does have, they're all up here. They're all up here. So it's a treat if they're written down for us. But we found ourselves trying to find some recipes that worked for us. And this recipe in particular is adapted from Patty Kittch, and she is an amazing chef who I've learned quite a bit from. So this is an adaptation from her carne con chile burritos, which I love, and I thought it would taste delicious in a tamale. So we are using a fattier cut of beef, a little bit more easier on the wallet, if I'm being honest. So the original recipe does use a brisket. That tends to be a lot pricier because it's such a lean cut of meat in comparison to like a chuck roast. So I do like using this because a little bit goes a long way. So we're using 3 pounds of chuck roast in this recipe as opposed to like 6 pounds of brisket. Okay, you can absolutely use the brisket if that's your jam, go for it. I would follow her recipe, which I've also included the link to, and then just kind of jump into the tamale portion. Okay, trying to get these little fatty pieces out. Alrighty, so we always make this as a family. We'll sit down at our kitchen table, and now that our kids are a little bit older, 8 and 5, they'll help us form the tamales. We'll all wear gloves and form the tamales. All right, there we go. I think that's good for now because it's going to break up a little bit more once we add it to the salsa and it simmers again. So we always sit around the table and form our tamales, and it's a lot of fun because, you know, it just warms my heart that the kids are excited about it too, as excited as we are. All right, so I'm going to set my meat aside, and this is what we're going for our tomatoes, right? You see how that's split and it's nice. Okay, Kristen, you see how it's split and nice and juicy? That's what we're looking for. And our peppers are nice and rehydrated and plump. Yes, that's what we want. Okay. So I'm going to take a reserve broth over here so I don't forget about it and don't accidentally add it to our thing. I do need my blender. If you do have any questions about the recipe or tamales in general, please go ahead and leave a comment. I'll try and periodically check on here just to see if there are any. All right, nothing right now. That's cool. Okay, so remember when I said I think we're done with the slotted spoon? I lied. I totally lied. See, I told you. I told you it would happen. Okay, so I'm going to put our Roma tomatoes in the blender along with all of our chilies. There's so many chilies. And we want those garlic cloves as well. So try and fish those out. Okay, I think I got everyone from the party in there. And I just need like a quarter of a cup of this liquid from just like a little splash, not a ton. All right, I'm going to set that aside just in case we need it again. Move the blender right in there. You're right in the blender. Okay. Next, I'm going to add like a quarter cup of coarsely chopped onion. And here's where the spices come in. So I have chile de árbol, 3 of those, and I have chile piquin. They are the tiniest, cutest little peppers. You see those? So cute. Wrong. Just kidding. They're cute, but they're spicy as hell. They are very spicy. So we're only using 3. Okay. You can look up the Scoville unit. The Scoville units. You can Google that, but it is a lot spicier than like a jalapeno. They're even spicier than the chile de árbol. So a little bit goes a long way. We're only using 3. I have a teaspoon of Mexican oregano. I would highly suggest seeking out Mexican oregano if you're already going to the Mexican market for your chili colorados. You're going to get that authentic flavor because there is a difference between oregano grown in Mexico versus oregano grown in the Mediterranean. Okay. Highly suggest that if you don't have that, it's okay. You can use regular oregano. And then I have half a teaspoon of salt and a quarter of a teaspoon of cumin. So we're going to add that to the party and we're going to whirl it up. till it's nice and there we go. That looks silly. I can't wait to show you how red this got. Let me just take a little peek first before we see if we're done. Yeah, it's done. It's so aromatic. I wish I could just, All right, look at this deep red color. Isn't that gorgeous? I know. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. All right. Let me get that cranking. I'm gonna try and scoop as much as it down as I can. This is just so, it's already kind of like hitting my throat and I'm not even eating it. It's just into the nasal passages. It's so gorgeous though. All right. Let me take y'all on a field trip over here. I forgot to turn on my light. Hold, please. Here we go. Little something. A little bit. All right. I think that'll be fine. All right. So, next step, get these seeds out of my oil because sometimes I'm a klutz. You know, I'm human. We keep it real here on Kittch. We don't cut this out. Okay, so I have they're everywhere. Okay, I have 2 tablespoons of oil, which I'm hitting into a hot Dutch oven, as well as 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. You can use flour. I am making this for a specific reason. I'm taking it to Christmas Eve with my extended family, and we have a few people with celiac, so I'm trying to keep it gluten-free. Okay, it works just as well if you have that in your family as well, or if you're just trying to, you know, be conscious of gluten. You can absolutely use cornstarch instead. Crank up the heat here. So what we're looking for is we're looking to cook out the cornstarch a little bit, get it a little nice and toasty. And this is going to help thicken our sauce even more because once we add the beef broth, it's going to change the texture quite a bit. I know it looks a little thick in the pot or the blender right now. All right, so I'm just going to let that kind of do its thing for a minute and pick up a little bit. So yeah, we usually bring, we'll steam the tamales and then bring it over to my grandpa's house, he's 93, and he just kind of, you know, chills and enjoys everybody's company while he has a martini. And it's so fun because it's more of like an appetizer situation. Everybody just brings a bunch of different appetizers, and that's our meal. But because are so many appetizers, but I think I just love it because it is a little bit of a melting pot for food. So we'll bring the tamales, and my aunt, she is Polish, so she'll bring kielbasa and sauerkraut. And my uncle is Italian, so sometimes we'll have pasta. So it's weird, but it's so fun. I love all the different combos of food, and so do the kids. They have a good time. I think I'm also going to make some coquito to bring over. I haven't made it before, but my sister-in-law, she grew up in Puerto Rico, and that's what she grew up drinking on the holidays. Obviously a non-alcoholic version when she was a kid, you know, but once you get older, you can partake in the rum rum coconut drink. I find it to be superior to eggnog. It's like eggnog's much, 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 much more attractive cousin, in my opinion. You might think differently. Okay. I'm just kind of waiting for that to toast because I don't wanna speed it up too much, you know what I mean? Because we don't want that raw cornstarch taste in our sauce. So I'm just kinda letting time do its thing. You know what I mean? I hope y'all have been enjoying the Kittch Mix content here on Kittch. I know the creators are doing a bunch of cool stuff. I've enjoyed tuning in to a few of the streams. All right. I think I need to kick up the heat a little bit. One of the downfalls of working with electric. Whew, hot. All right. We get everything else ready. Take a sip of sparkling water. I do have a little bit of a rundown cheat sheet just to make sure I'm doing everything. Because I'll be honest, we only make this once a year because it is such a process. So it's good to just have that reference, you know. Just so you know, I'm not making it up. I have a little cheat sheet. All right. Just waiting on our roux here. I almost said this looks so good. Really, Kristen? Just oil and cornstarch? Mmm. It looks like I am a little bit shy on my broth though, so I am gonna fix that. I want 2 full cups. And then when the broth chills overnight for the masa dough, you have the opportunity to just skim the fat off the top because it's cold. But I do want to speak to as to another reason why I split this process up into 2 days. Yeah, it's easier to split it up because it is such an intensive process. But the result I also find to be much more flavorful because if you think back on how soup dumplings are made, they actually form the dumplings when the bone broth is nice and congealed and gelatinous. So we're going to get that same technique almost when we put the beef in and it simmers and then we allow it to cool and put it in the fridge overnight. All of that delicious flavor is just going to kind of gelatinize to the meat itself. And we're going to form the tamales when the meat is almost room temp. I don't want to say chilled or cold because you do want to bring it up a little bit. But it gives it the opportunity for that flavor to just release into the masa so you don't end up with a dry tamale. It's just like that extra assurance policy, but then also it's just so good. Have you had a soup dumpling before? Oh my god. So it's just like that same technique, similar technique. I don't want to say same, similar technique, but we're applying it to the tamales. And I just find that it has a much better result and it's not as overwhelming because I mean, I cooked this meat for an hour and a half and then the meat has to simmer for another 30 minutes. Plus you got to make the salsa and then you got to make the masa dough and then you have to steam the tamales. So all in, you're looking at 3-4 hours without breaking it up into 2 steps. So you could absolutely just go bang, 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 same day, invite people over, do it all the same day. But I like to split it up. Okay, you see how this is turned into a little golden brown toasty moment? That's how we know it's time to put in, excuse me, my sparkling water. That's when we put in our salsa. Woo! Oh yeah, baby. Oh my gosh. You're getting a virtual facial right now. Here we go. And you know what I'm going to do, because there is like a little bit of reserved, I'm actually going to blend this back up with our broth so then I don't lose any of that salsa that we did. I shouldn't have put away my blender. All right, let me stir this and turn this down a little bit because season up a little bit too much. All right. I don't want to waste any of that pepper tomato sauce. I'm just going to whir it up real quick. Not necessary, but all right. Add that back in. And we're just going to let this cook for a little bit. Try and scrape up any little bits that may have formed on the bottom of the pan when you added the sauce. I'm actually going to get my whisk here. Kind of whisk it up a little bit. Oh man. So we're just going to give it the opportunity to become one with our roux and thicken up quite a bit. But then it's also activating all of those dried peppers that we didn't rehydrate in the water. I know I'm off camera, I'm sorry. That we didn't rehydrate in the water. So it's just kind of waking up those chile de arbos, the chili piquin, the oregano, the cumin, to make it nice and flavorful for our shredded beef. Oh my gosh, this just smells amazing already. All right, I'm gonna clean up just a smidge while that's going. I appreciate you being here, coming into my kitchen. I think it's so cool that you're able to do that. Okay, here we go. All right, do a little check. All right, there we go. Take our blender. Here we go. That is looking so good. I need this though. See how that's thickening up from our roux? That's just gonna help adhere to all of our shredded beef for the tamales. That looks delish. All right, so I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I am going to reserve about a half a cup of this sauce. When I say it's aromatic, it is aromatic. I'm not even eating it and it's hitting me here. I'm going to reserve about a half a cup of our sauce and I'm going to add it to our masa dough for day 2. So I'm going to take a little bit out now so it doesn't get mixed in with the beef. I just got to find my ladle. Where the hell? Oh my gosh, it's gonna be, I'm gonna watch this later and it's gonna be like right in front of my face, but it's not. All right. You see it? It's right there, literally right there on the table. Ah! Happy holidays. All right, so I'm going to reserve about like, that's like a third of a cup. I'm gonna add a little bit more. So I'm gonna let that chill. And I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna add it to our masa dough for day 2. Alrighty, time to add in our beef. See all of our shredded beef here, we're gonna add it right to the pot. If there's any leftover broth, just get it on in there. All right, oh, we got a little fatty piece, which I'm going to pull out real quick. Oh man, delicious already. Okay, so we added our beef back into the pot, and we are going to bring this up, medium heat, kind of let it bubble again, and then we're going to turn it back down, partially cover it, and we're going to let it simmer for another half an hour. Okay, so I think that is a good stopping point for this particular stream for the filling. Just because I don't want to, have to stare at each other for a half an hour. So once that's done, I'm going to save the carne con chile, in a bowl that I can fit with a lid and let it cool a little bit, close to room temperature, and then stick it in the fridge. That way our meat and salsa just gets nice and gelatinized. And then when we make our masa dough for the tamales on Friday at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock Eastern, I'll show you how to make the masa dough as well as form and steam the tamales. So that's it, Kittch. I'm so happy that you were able to join me here on how to learn how to make our filling for our tamales. Make sure you're following me here on Kittch so you can learn how to form your masa dough and make the masa dough and form the tamales. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for you to join me on Friday. All right, bye, Kittch. You can also follow me on social media. I am at WTFIN Recipe on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. All the things. Cheers. Cheers to you. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on Friday for some tamales. Bye, Kittch.